Hello everyone. I just wanted to share a story that happened to me years ago when my kids were in middle school, and hopefully this will prevent this from happening to anyone else. I thought about this yesterday when I was doing some housework and chores, and I came across a pair of earrings, and it reminded me of this situation. Basically, I used to have a craft studio in my home when my kids were younger, and I had those IKEA drawer systems, so for storage of the craft supplies and things. And in one of the drawers, I had some special mementos that I was holding on to make shadow boxes. I was going to use these shadow boxes to hand down to my kids because they contained things like earrings that I received from my grandfather, or different old buttons that my grandmother saved when she took them off of used shirts when she was alive and doing her sewing projects and things like that. Just some mementos. They weren't worth anything, but they were sentimental to me. We had new neighbors move in when my kids were in middle school, and they had a couple of daughters that were the same ages as my son and daughter, and the four kids got along really well. So I suggested that the mom come over one night. Her husband was working, so it was just going to be her and her daughters, and we were going to have dinner and craft time. And I always hosted craft time throughout the years. I worked a brief time at a nursing home, and I did craft time for older people. So, it's just something I like to do. It's fun, relaxing. The big night came when everybody came over to do craft time. We made a big pasta dinner with the garlic bread and the salad and the penne for the kids, and it was a blast. It started out great. Quickly after dinner, I wanted to clean up, so I brought the kids upstairs to my craft room, and I explained to them, you can use anything here. There's glitter, there's paper, there's art markers. Anything here is safe and you can use all of it, but do not go in this one drawer. And I forbid them for going in there. And I said, I'm going to trust you, but you can't go in this one drawer because I have some special mementos set aside for some projects I'm going to work on in the future. So, but anything else you can help yourself to. Now, I had a very large craft room. I had an enormous amount of papers and stickers and glitter glues and anything you can think of I had in this craft room. There was absolutely no reason for these kids to go into that one little drawer with the few items I was saving. Well, I know what you're thinking. This isn't going to end well, and she should have just taken the drawer and put it somewhere else, or taken the items and put them somewhere else. And you're right, I should have. Looking back, absolutely. But I knew my kids would not go in the drawer because I had asked them not to. I went upstairs after cleaning up from dinner, and the first thing I noticed is that little drawer was wide open and there was nothing in it. So I said to the children, where are the craft items that came from this drawer? And nobody would speak up about it. And I said, okay, who has the things that were in this drawer? And once again, nobody said anything. So I asked my kids, and my kids said, I didn't really see. I was coloring my picture or doodling over here or whatever. They didn't notice. So I asked the two girls, did you girls see who went into the drawer? And neither of them admitted it. I had all the kids come downstairs and sit with me in the living room. And in front of their mother, I said, there's this one drawer where I had some special mementos, and the drawer is now open and empty. I don't know where those items are. They're not valuable, but they were special to me. They had sentimental value. So I would appreciate it if they were returned to me. Later in the week was actually Halloween. I was preparing in my kitchen for Halloween dinner. My kids were preparing to go out trick-or-treating, and there was a knock on my door. It was one of the girls that had been over for craft night. I greeted her politely, and she said, would you mind sewing my costume for me? I don't have anything to wear. And I said, does your mom know you're over here? And she said, yes, my mom said it's okay because she knows that you can do sewing and you know crafts. And I said, well, I'm not the best sewer. I do craft time, but I don't really know how to sew that well, but I can try. We sat down together and I showed her how to hot glue on some flowers to a headband, and she had some tulle to make like a little skirt, and we did the elastic waistband together. It came out okay. Not professional by any means, but it came out okay. And then she left and the sister arrived. And when the sister came over, she wanted to show me her costume. And in doing so, she had taken all of the special mementos that I said were missing, and she personally had attached them. I don't know with thread or with hot glue, but she had attached them to a cuff that she wore on her wrist. All of those little special mementos, earrings and buttons and all the things I was going to put in a shadow box for memories. And I said to her, "Oh, did you get those from my craft drawer?" And she said, yes, I did. And I said, "Well, you knew," I said, "that one drawer was off limits. You could have taken anything else in my craft room. I opened my home to you and everything in it in the craft room except for that one drawer. Why would you go and take those mementos, which mean nothing to anybody but me?" And to this day, I don't know why. She didn't really give me a valid answer. What she did say was she thought they would make a pretty Halloween costume, and therefore she took them to use for her Halloween costume. I didn't have the heart to say anything to the mother after that. I realized that this was not something I was going to win. There was no winning here. I wasn't going to take them back from the girl. She was so happy to have this cuff that she decorated. But at the same time, it was my fault. I should have had those items put up away from reach, away from their eyes, away from them getting a hold of while they're crafting. But the moral of the story here is this. Well, there's two morals. If you are having something like I hosted, like a craft get together, or other kids from your neighborhood, or even the children's school, and you're having them over to your house, put up anything that their little eyes or hands can get a hold of, because they might just disappear like mine did. But point number 2 is just be careful who you let in your home. You never know, especially I didn't know this woman. I was being neighborly, but I didn't really know her. I didn't know the values that she was instilling in her children. I'm sure she wasn't raising them to be little thieves, and I'm sure the little girl didn't mean to be a thief. But being in middle school, she was definitely old enough to know right and wrong, and having that experience, I would just say to anyone else out there, just be extremely careful. In fact, be more cautious in 2025 and going forward with people that you don't know and letting them in your home, because you know your values, you know your value system, and you know how you've raised your children and your family, and your home is supposed to be your safe place, and you don't want to have somebody take from you. It could have been a lot worse. Thankfully, it was just a couple of inexpensive mementos that I'll forever hold in my heart. I don't need to have them in a shadow box. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.